Morning, folks. We are Coffee with Job, Chapter 3, Job's Blues. It's a wee bit windy and a wee bit cold, so I've still got my hat on. Now, when we read this, and I was going to look at the whole chapter, but it's actually splits into verses. So we're going to, in the original Hebrew, and the first is verses 1 to 10, the first stanza. And it's a song, it's a poem. So let me just read the beginning. After this, Job opened his mouth and cursed the day of his birth. He said, "May the day of my birth perish, and the night that said a boy is conceived. That day, may it turn to darkness. May God above not care about it." Now, what's hugely significant in this is the first two chapters are narrative. We now go into a poem, and it's a song of grief. And what does that have to do with us? Well, I love the fact that in the Bible there are songs of grief, because all human beings experience grief at some point. And the idea that Christianity is, now I'm happy all the day, is just really, really wrong. This poem looks at, well, even today, well, chapter 3, looks at death and euthanasia and abortion and the worship of God and the blues and monsters and depression. So I think it's highly relevant. If you know Scottish music, the bagpipes, now you either love them or hate them. I love them, but I especially love pibroch, which is the classical form of bagpiping and which is really lament. And the bagpipes are marvelous instruments for going to war. They're also marvelous instruments for lamenting. And what Job is doing here, he's desperate to get his faith and his feelings together. And so he asks three questions, one of which is, why was I born? Why was I born? The first verse is a curse on the past. It's a curse on his birthday. And that's very unusual and also futile. The past can't be changed. Once you've done something, it's done. What Job says makes no sense, but it expresses how he feels. Job's not stoical. Self-control is not the domination of the passions. Self-control is how we behave ourselves, but we can still feel. So he talks about the birth of a child, and he says, that day is normally a happy occasion. He's saying it was a sad occasion, like Jeremiah. "Cursed be the day I was born. May the day my mother bore me not be blessed. Cursed be the man who brought my father the news, who made him very glad, saying, a child is born to you, a son. May that man be like the towns that the Lord overthrew without pity. May he hear wailing in the morning, for he did not kill me in the womb, with my mother as my grave, her womb enlarged forever. Why did I ever come out of the womb to see trouble and sorrow, and to end my days in shame?" That's heavy. It's heavy, heavy stuff. But it's reality for people. And sometimes you can feel like that. You'll note that Job curses the day of his birth and not God. And you'll note also, fascinating, that a significant part of this stanza refers to the night of his conception. Verses 6 to 9 refer to that. In verse 7 talks about the shout of joy, and the shout of joy there is when a woman discovers that she's pregnant, a child that she loves, that she wants. She's been desperate, and she cries out in that way. And Job's response is to say, I wish that ordered world disappeared. I wish Leviathan would come. Now we'll return to Leviathan again, but Leviathan is the monster, the beast, the devil, if you like, the chaos, of disorder rather than chaos. And, Job is really wanting creation to be reversed. God created out of chaos. Job says, please let it go back to chaos. This is just meaningless and pointless and senseless. So, let me return again to this idea of birth. The birth of Jesus, of course, was the occasion of the greatest joy, as also his conception. My heart leapt within me, the baby leapt within me, says Elizabeth about John the Baptist and coming into contact with Jesus. It was a day of great joy. But notice this, let me just finish with this. Birth and conception that are mentioned here. Surely there's one very practical lesson that we can take from this. The child in the womb is a human being. That has enormous implications for our society. The child in the womb is a human being. Any society which deliberately kills the weakest and smallest of its human beings is an abomination. Where does that leave us? See you tomorrow.